Okay, what we're going to go over is we're going to go over how to find your Z-scores and using standardized testing. And our Dr. Cooper provided us with this information in this workbook. The workbook itself has 4 different sheets. I've created the last one, the total group, math, technical digest data, and reading. And like I said, the last one's my working copy. But let's go over why you would not need to find the Z-score. What does the Z-score do? The Z-score tells you how many standard deviations from the means. It allows us to calculate the area and what it's associated with. So to do this, we want to see what the mean is. We want to see how our kids performed. Are they in the average amount? Are they in that +1, -1 area, or are we outside of the outliers? So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the data that was given to us from the 2021 STAR reading, 3rd grade reading test. And in this, before I start this, I want to give myself a few notes because later on I may have to go back and look at this. So I want to be able to see where I get this information. As I stated before, there was a technical digest data, and this information was actually pulled from the TEA website. And to go to your TEA website to find this, you go to www.tea.state.texas.us. And in the search bar, you're going to type in technical digest because I need to find my mean and I need to find my standard deviation for my test. So, and the state does that for us. That's not something we have to calculate. You select your most recent test, and from there, you select the mean, p-values, and internal consistency values by reporting category and content area. You scroll and you find your test. So this is my 3rd grade. So here is the snapshot that was taken from my 3rd grade test and put onto this worksheet. And in here, it tells me I'm able to find my overall test for my reading. My mean is 21.75 and my standard deviation is 7.39. So if I want to find that information for later reference, that's where I go to. So let's get back to how we find our Z-scores. This is our original, and because I'm making changes, I always want to make a copy, but this is my original worksheet, and I'm looking at my reading, and like I said before, I'm looking at my 3rd grade and I'm looking at my 4th grade. So from my original copy, I made this, and if you'll notice that and I don't need this, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. But if you'll notice that on this worksheet, it also had, I've deleted a few different columns, but I've also added in columns. I've added in my STAR reading 3rd grade Z-score column, and it's right next to my raw score. Anything I do, I'm always going to pull from my raw score, so I put it right next to it. And then I've got my STAR 4th grade percentile rank, and I don't have a raw score here, but we're going to go over how to do that in a minute. And then I've got my growth column, and my growth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this year's test to last year's test and see how my kids did. So let's go over first the graph. This graph was pulled from that technical digest data. And just as a reminder, our mean when we start looking at things is 0. That's our middle point. And then how many standard deviations out is how well they did or how they failed to perform if it's in the negative area. The yellow box is my 68% that most people perform within. And so this is my average. My average people usually perform right here. So let's find our Z-score. To find our Z-score, we're going to hit equal. And we're going to type in this equal norm. I'm looking for norm distribution, norm distribution. And I'm going to click on my raw score here. And my raw score is, I don't have anything here, but I'm still not going to exclude this guy or this girl because they have a score here. So I want that information. And then I need my mean. There are two ways I can do my mean. I can click on the 21. I can click on the cell itself, but when I click on that, because I want to stay constant, I have to type my dollar signs in front of my row and column number. And then just to put it in there, just to spice it up a little bit, my standard deviation, my number is 7.39. And I could do what I did on the previous one for my mean and put the cell number in, but I can also just type in the amount. So 7.39 is my standard deviation, comma, and there's my true. And I have to close it and I hit enter. When I do that, I get my raw score, and I'm going to go ahead and drag down and fill in the rest. It's pretty neat to fill because you don't have to type in each individual one. Can you imagine how much time it would take? Okay. So fill in the rest, and I get my raw score, my z-score from my raw score here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take down the number, not increase, take down the number of decimals, because with APA, it's asking for 2. And here you'll see that it's 0, because remember, we don't have a score right here. So that's our z-score, and we're going to go over this in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and fill in the rest, and then we're going to go over how this relates to this graph. So for my percentile rank, now notice that I don't have a raw score here, so I need to do the opposite. I'm going to type in norm, and this is my inverse. And then I'm going to type in my probability. So my probability is going to be my percentile rank. And then I close it, hit enter. And I'm going to do the same thing, click and drag to where it fills it down. And this is my z-score for the following year. And remember, we've got to make this to where we only have 2 decimals, so we're going to take it down. And we're going to come here, and we have to find out our growth. Our growth is just a simple subtraction. So we're going to put equals, and we can do this without putting the dollar signs because we're not staying consistent. We're going to take this year's and subtract it from last year's z-score. Hit enter. And our growth is shown here, or lack of growth. So, excuse me, this one right here, we don't have the student, remember, did not take that test. So they didn't show growth. They just got their number. And this one, let's see what's going on. Let's see if I can push it out. Nope. So what we're going to look at is going to from this here, we're going to look at our standard deviation. We're going to see how our kids did. And if you look down the list, we don't have anything that's negative for the 2021 star, nothing negative. So we didn't have anybody who performed in the negative area compared to our mean. And we really didn't have anybody that we had a 0.95 right here. So let's look at our 0.95 and see where this person ended up being. So we have 0.95. We're going to go to draw, and we're going to use our red. And we're going to put, now remember, 0 is our mean. So 0 is where everybody, this is like the standard. It's our standard. So standard score, and I'm gonna come and it's 0.95. So this person scored right. If I could get it a little thicker. Scored right here. He scored right here. Now this person, let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Make it red maybe. Oh no, I don't need that big. Let's go here. Let's go right here. We're gonna keep it red. So this guy got right there. Make it a little bit bigger. So he was right there. Our next guy, let's look at another one. Let's see how far he's off from the standard, from the mean, excuse me, from the mean. This guy is at 0.24. So if he's at 0.24, he's right here. So he's just right above. And then we can look at our star percentile, our ranks here, and we can see our growth. We can see that this guy right here, or this student right here, he had negative growth because he ended up doing better on the 2021 score than he did on the 2022 score. So you can see where some people had growth and some people did not. And remember this sort of thing, I take that off. This sort of thing right here is because we have the value here. So when we're looking at this, this gives us, we're able to look to see how our kids did according to the test.